We're not even going to try to promise the next time you're going to see us. We're not even going to make any excuses.
Look, we're busy, okay? We're not busy in the way that other people will ever see us outside, or that we have a lot of money. It's neither of those. We're just busy. Get over it, all right?
All right.
We make the videos because we love the stuff. We love perfume, love to talk about it.
I love to hang out with you.
I love to hang out with you.
See, there you go.
But that's it.
And it gets us away from our stupid animals.
But here's the other thing. You've seen a million people come and go through YouTube, through the Fragcom. You've seen a million people come and say, oh, we're going to be here forever. We're doing a video a week. We're fucking reselling our shit nonstop, trying to just get a different fragrance for us to talk about every week. They burn out. They turn into nothing.
We're still chugging along.
We're still...
one video a year.
Yeah. Look, we're around. If you comment on our shit, we'll see you eventually and respond back. And, you know, our dog likes to bark at you. But, you know, we keep the collection going. You see the collection videos every year. Our collection video for this year's coming out really soon. But yeah, just don't worry about it. We're okay. We know you're okay.
Everybody's okay.
Yeah. Look, we don't get paid to do this. Nobody sends us free bottles of anything. We're not trying to put on a suit and tie and go, this fragrance has notes that are going to be very okay at the workplace. This will you'll drop your panties. Somebody's going to just throw their panties at you, drive by and smell this shit.
Oh, is that why you threw panties at me?
That's why I throw panties at you.
That makes sense.
But that's different.
Now. Okay, gotcha.
You're not wearing perfume when I'm throwing panties at you. I'm just throwing panties at you.
Okay.
It's fun. It's a sport. Anyways.
Anyway, we're here today to talk about the house that we have the second most number of fragrances
from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first one is Sultan Pasha.
Yep. And we already did a Sultan Pasha. That was like a
forever ago
exploration video.
Forever ago.
We could do an updated one because we've got even more now and we're even more in love with the brand. Yeah.
Yep. You let us know. So the next one that we have the most of is Zoologist.
Zoologist.
Which is a bit different than what you may think of when it comes to like an indie niche house. It's run by one dude.
Yep.
His name is Victor.
He's amazing.
And he's awesome.
He's incredibly nice.
But Victor isn't necessarily like the nose behind the perfumes. He works with other perfumers to create these really cool masterpieces, these really cool stories. I kind of call them stories.
Yeah, I think that's right.
That are zoologist. So, yeah, I mean, I think when most people think of, you know, indie and niche, you think of a one-man or one-woman show, and that's true. It's just that he
outsources one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. So that's also kind of what's neat, is that you're not getting the same person to tell. You get different perspectives and different insight through all the different perfumes, which I think kind of is why it does what it does so well, is because you get all sorts of different people, you know, taking on their own unique experience. I don't know.
But there's a cohesive concept.
Yes.
Because with a lot of niche brands like Amouage, you know, pretty much almost any niche house that you're going to run into, you are going to have different noses for a lot of different scents. But here there is a continuous, cohesive whole.
Yeah.
Victor really does act as an artist in this brand. A lot of times you'll see, you know, the creative director or whatever it is acting as a business figure for a brand. But Victor really is an artistic figure through whom all of this passes. So there's diversity and unity at the same time. It's really unique.
Yes.
And if you look back to some of our oldest videos, we've been with Zoologist pretty much as long as we've been with perfume. Our journey kind of started alongside the same time that Victor was launching his brand. You know, when we first tried Zoologist,
it was outside our comfort zone.
Yeah, it was way outside our comfort zone, and you can see that in the video. we called it a masterpiece. I think we did a bat and a hummingbird, maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
It's hard to remember. You can go back and look right now. We can't.
We're old.
We're old. The point is, we've been with them as long as we've been into perfumes, and Zoologist, frankly, has still continued to kill it. They're one of the most consistent brands alongside Sultan Pasha for just absolutely destroying it, especially with how many different noses they have working for them. It's amazing that they still continue to hit them out of the park.
Absolutely.
Jinx.
Yeah. Oops. This is what happens when we spend too much time together. We say the same things. Any hoozle. Yeah, so we don't own all the bottles. We own, let's see, 11. So we're going to talk about those 11. You know, if there's something you want us to dive deeper into, let us know. Because we're going to be kind of only highlighting it high level. You're not going to get all the fun, quirky stuff that we normally get into.
Yeah. Whoa. Hello again.
When it comes to fragrances. And one of the things that we're going to want to make sure that, you know, you'll have to help out for sure. And the audience knows, wow, we are really zooming in and out today. This is fun. It's like...
Here. I'm going to try to correct that before the folks go get sick.
Okay. So Zoologist sometimes does reiterations of the same animal.
Yeah.
So we'll try to make that clear, but I just want to make sure that if you're not familiar with Zoologist, know that there's a couple iterations of bat and a couple iterations of beaver. So just don't be surprised if, you know, what we're talking about may not necessarily be the one that you see on Fragrantica, or there might be multiple on Fragrantica.
There are.
You know, so just don't be surprised when you're like, which beaver is the one that they're talking about? So we'll try our best to...
It's totally different than reformulations, which you're probably familiar with if you're watching any perfume videos at all, especially if you can wade through the sloggy shit of our videos to get to the meat. It's way different than reformulations. Almost every time it's a different nose doing it. It's a completely different set of notes or a lot of different notes. It smells completely different. So we'll touch on that as we come through. And then we'll also kind of run through the samples real quick. But like Jess said, it's super introductory. Let us know if you really want us to tackle any of these in an actual review video. And then, you know, next year you can look out for that, because that would be great. That would be our one video for next year. Okay, so let's start with the packaging real quick.
Okay.
I just wanted to highlight, as far as I'm aware, it took us a little while to buy our first bottle because, once again, it was outside of our comfort zone, which to me is the mark of, you know, great perfume. You don't get it immediately.
Yeah.
And that's true even for Sultan Pasha, who I fell in love with instantly, but I didn't understand it, really. I was just kind of, like, dazzled through it. And that's the same thing here. It's just, you know, on one side you've got very classical structured perfumery. The other one, Zoologist, it's a little bit often more experimental. So, of course, that'll be a little bit harder. But as you can see, I'm no stranger to experimental. So, the first types of boxes that I'm aware of that these came in is the box for Beaver. This is the reformulated version of Beaver. You've got this really nice case that opens up, got a nice holder for the bottle there, and then you've got a breakdown of the story of the notes of the perfumer on the one side. It's got a nice magnet that closes. Then it's a slightly different box. You can tell there's just a texture difference.
The texture difference, yeah.
Yeah. But once again, you know, you still have the really beautiful spot to hold it with the golden inlay. You still have the story and the notes and the perfumer. And then we've got these sleeve guys, which I think are the newest version, which have the story, the picture of the perfumer, which I really like on the back, the notes, you know, ingredients and stuff on the side. And then that slides out and you've got the nice branding Zoologist there, and you've still got the golden inlay down beneath. But I think on these new, well, maybe they don't say it on the box. So never mind. So that's the big difference. And obviously the image is blown out on one, and it's not on the other. So that's all I really wanted to say about the boxes. Just as far as I know, there's 3 iterations. There might be more. I didn't really look closely at all of our boxes. I just kind of grabbed the 3 that I remembered off the top of my head. There might be more. Sorry.
Let us know.
Okay, so then as far as the actual bottles, we'll jump into those first. As far as the bottles go, there's also a lot of variation, which we'll get to as we kind of go through these guys.
Oh, is that what you want to do?
Yeah, let's go through them and talk about the variations as we see them.
Okay, cool. We'll start with T-Rex, because we already did a video on that one.
We already did a video on this one. T-Rex.
So
Classic.
Also, the one that we have is kind of fun. It's the special edition, because he's got sunnies!
He's got little sunglasses on there. Yeah.
So, yep, we've got a video for sure out on this one, I remember. Why don't you say a few words about
our good friend.
Our good friend T-Rex.
Well, it's Antonio Gardoni behind Vogue who did this one, which is also what I love so much about Zoologist. You have indie perfumers right next to classically trained perfumers, right next to the king of experimental perfumes himself. And this one is like a burning forest with a bunch of burning flowers beneath it.
It's you get the smoke instantly.
And it's nuclear. That's true for most zoologists. I find that this is probably the longest lasting and like biggest cloud of perfume that you get from any brand. They're unreal. And yeah, this one is just probably the most experimental out of all of them, probably the weirdest. Gardoni came out with a perfume called Lita for his own brand, which is kind of a toned down version of this. They're pretty similar. They both have the rose oxide that's in here that's kind of one of the big marketing images behind here. And they both have Cade oil, and they're both smoky and weird. This is just the more rambunctious, crazy version of that.
Should we talk about this bottle and then use that as a comparison to other bottles as we go through?
Yeah, so this is kind of the midway through the line as far as it is now. You've got the nice little leather cap, which they've always had, but now it's got the embossed logo on the top for Zoologist, and it does not have a batch code or anything on the bottom. So that's what this bottle is kind of midway through. Yeah, and you'll also notice it's an extrait de parfum. Sometimes with the variations on from one change to another, it'll change from eau de parfum to extrait de parfum and back. So that's one thing that'll help clue you in, depending on if that was one of the changes or not. But anyway, that's T-Rex.
Okay, next.
Next up, we've got Civet,
which I think is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the most crowd-pleasing perfumes they've released.
Yeah.
It's still a little weird.
If you want to get into Zoologist.
Now, one difference...
Oh, yeah, definitely go this way. Oh, it's so great. I love it.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best amber perfumes there is around. It's one of the best, like, sweet, kind of resinous perfumes that there is.
Man, there is just something delicious about it.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's good. It's really, really awesome. I think every time you wear it, you throw panties in my face. So
That's exactly what happens. I go, hey, guess what I'm wearing? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is warm and delicious, and I don't know, it just feels like comfort, or it smells like comfort.
It's got this this custardy note up top from the yellow florals, and then there's this really like resinous coffee and civet accord that is supposed to be the luwak coffee that they poop out.
Yeah.
And so it's this one, unlike T-Rex being kind of the most experimental one, where it's kind of an abstract image of the destruction of the earth with the destruction of
dinosaurs and meteors.
Yeah. This one's a little bit more about the environment, which is, one of the conceptual approaches to perfume that Victor will employ, is that you're kind of talking about the environment, and I think this one's a slam dunk. This is one of the variations in the bottle design. You can see here we don't have an embossed logo on the top, and the cap is really light, as opposed to the other one. It also doesn't fit as snugly. Yeah, so there you already see huge variation in the Zoologist brand. You've got crazy experimental, very heavy, not super crowd pleasing. I think if you wore this one out, you'd probably have to wait a while before you could leave, and it would be appropriate. And even then, some people might look at you strangely, even though this perfume's amazing. This one, no matter where you're wearing it, people are going to love you. It is a little weird still. You know, if you're only used to wearing like Sauvage, it's still going to be bizarre to you, but this one kicks ass.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we've got the guy that started it all out for us, the big weirdo.
Oh, bat!
Bat.
Yeah.
This is the OG bat. This is not the one by Princeton Rose, which is the new bat, which has a little more of a floral, a little more fruity notes up top. It's the mineral nature is toned down. This is the one by Ellen Convey from, I don't know if I said that right, Ellen Covey from, I'm blanking on her name. Tropic of Capricorn is my favorite perfume of hers, outside of bat. They are called...
I don't know.
Olympic Orchids.
There you go, nice.
That's what it is. I have no idea why I blanked on that hard. And you can tell, even though this is one of the oldest perfumes in our collection from Zoologist, it's bottled in a newer bottle because there is a batch code on the bottom. This one is straight up super bizarre.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I want to redo our bat video.
I do too.
Because it is no longer accurate.
Yeah.
But it's still... what we said about it is still very true. You get kind of like that damp earthiness in it, but it's not as
grisly as it once was.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, but even when I thought this was crazy, I wore this to my workplace, and I kind of walked around, and people thought I smelled pleasant. It was only a few of my coworkers I walked up to, and I was like, "Smell this. What is going on here?" And they smelled it, and they were kind of like, "Oh, that's interesting." And I'm like, does that smell like dark, like a cave, and kind of like, you know, bizarre? And they're like, yeah, now that you're saying that, yeah. So it's not, I think we psych ourselves out more than people will actually interpret things to be.
True. And the other thing that we've noticed with Zoologist is it takes, don't spray it once and judge it and be done with it. Like, you have to spray it multiple times to truly understand a zoologist.
Yeah.
That is what we have learned over and over and over again.
Over and over and over again. Yeah, most of the perfumes in my collection, when I first sprayed them, I was like, that's weird. And then it was like a bug in my brain, and I kept thinking about it. I'm like, man, that's so interesting. And I would smell other perfumes, and I would be like disappointed in them. It's like, these guys make you think kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And then they suddenly, somehow, really subtly ruin a lot of other perfumes for you, because what's going on in these are so fantastic.
But yeah, this is, even though it's got that damp earthiness to it, it's not heavy. It's a light dampness. And so that's, I don't know. Yeah, we'd like to redo that video, but bottle-wise, it's pretty close to T-Rex.
Yeah. Okay, so the next fragrance is the new Dragonfly. This is the 2021 Dragonfly. And this one you can tell the difference because of the color of the juice. The original juice was like a really light purple, and now it's like one of the most beautiful greens that you've ever seen in a juice. This new guy is
very fresh.
Very fresh, very
floral.
soft,
Yeah.
floral. It's got a really beautiful rice note up top.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, you're hearing our dog Diogenes freaking out upstairs. Nobody knows why. He just does it. He wants to be smelling perfume.
He's supposed to be a cynic, but he's not.
He is cynical.
Is he?
That's what he's screaming.
Ah.
He said, "If only I could get rid of this feeling, like by rubbing my belly."
Anyway, sorry.
Anyways, yeah. So this is one of the fragrances that shows something interesting about Zoologist, which is even their light, fresh scents typically will still last forever on you and will still be projecting for quite some time. And this guy is like the king of the light, beautiful projecting notes.
This reminds me of something else we've learned about Zoologists throughout the way.
Which is?
The spray once, and that should probably do it. I think when we first started, some of the other ones, like it was Hummingbird and
Nightingale.
Yes. Didn't think about it, would like spray twice or whatever, because you know that's what you get used to, is you don't necessarily only spray once and forget it. I like, because they are such loud and forever fragrances, it's very easy to get a headache. So I recommend, if you're new and you're trying them out, just spray it once. Like, don't try to spray it a bunch. Spray it once, let it sit.
And then see if you need to do more.
Yes. Because that's, again, another easy way to be spooked out of the house if you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to let the people learn the mistakes that we have made along the way.
Yes. And you also can see this contrasts very nicely with the 3 perfumes we've already seen.
Yeah.
You've got Bat, Civet, and T-Rex, which are all kind of more dark fragrances. This is very light. There's nothing that would be offensive to anybody about this. You could wear this anywhere.
Anywhere, anytime.
Anywhere, anytime. But as opposed to, say, Bat and T-Rex, which are, more experimental and indie, Diogenes really loves this one. So unlike Bat and T-Rex, which are more independent in their perfume structure, this is incredibly classically structured, and smells very much like a lot more traditional perfumery will.
Next,
we've got
the Queen Bee.
Bee by Zoologist.
You know what? You'd be surprised. There's honey. It's a honey note in here. Big shocker to everybody.
Yeah, and this is also, once again, this is a sweeter perfume in the brand. Mm-hmm. It's got this. It's got this, like, honeycomb to honey to, like, vanillic benzoin progression, but it's really like almost like a honey soliflor perfume
which makes sense because bee.
Yeah, or you could call it like a beeswax / honey soliflor perfume. You've got the honey accentuated by by ginger, by orange blossom, and all these other notes, but they are very tucked behind the honey that's in here. And so once again, this is very different from anything we've touched on. Probably closest to Civet, but
yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, I understand. I agree with that. Closest to Civet, but they're not so close that I'd say you can't have both.
No, yeah, they're very different.
Yes.
But it just continues to kind of show this round picture of perfume that Zoologist is interested in exploring.
Have we mentioned that our life is busy? Anywho.
Anyways.
Okay. This one is the most fun colored.
So next up we have Squid, which is probably the most designery perfume from the house. It's the most crowd-pleasing of the scents as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Let me smell it. No, I disagree.
Really?
I think Dragonfly more so than this.
See, this is probably the perfume that was hardest for me to get into from the whole house.
Okay.
Because it smells very designerish to me. I mean,
it does, but...
And it's probably just because it's an aquatic.
Which you don't like aquatics.
Well, aquatics, that's the thing, is aquatics are really not generally approached by niche houses. And if they are, they're overblown. They're like extreme salty fragrances or something like that. This one is a little bit salty, a little bit peppery. You've got a really strong incense note in there. A Popanax is incredibly strong in this perfume. But it also has got a, like, marine-y note.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't think it's cologne that's in here, or cologne. It doesn't really smell like it. If it is, it's blended incredibly nicely with the incense. But I would say this is probably the most unique aquatic that I've ever smelled to date, and that's why I wound up buying it eventually, is because I wore the sample enough that you really do get the incense note really strongly coming through. The Popanax is really bizarre and interesting in this composition. It's hard for me. I've never heard of anybody like being weirded out by this one, though. I honestly think I could wear this into the office and people would be like, man, that guy's wearing like a really clean, really fresh perfume, even though a lot of the notes aren't really continuing with that aquatic nature.
Yep.
Okay, next up,
Let's do it.
Moth. And here's another variation in the bottle design. This one is indented where the image is. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's actually the rest of the bottle around the label is kind of, I don't know, it's embossed and it's indented right where the label is. That's one of the coolest new features of the bottles, I think. And you can also, you know what, I didn't point it out, but from the old bottle design over here with Moth and the new bottle design over here, there's a variation in the texture on the leather of the caps. You can kind of see it's a little more rough over here, it's smoother over here. So that's the smoother one is the newer one. So Moth, a really cool gray juice.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is super interesting, super unique. This does a really good job of emulating the moth itself. It really kind of smells dark and dusty and powdery, but there's also like a sweet honeyness to it.
Yeah.
There's a spiciness to it. What do you think of this guy?
It just reminds me of my old days of working in the chemistry lab and smelling naphthalene without it being naphthalene smelling, because that's not what it smells like, but it just is like a trigger.
Because the concept succeeds, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is, so we're talking about kind of how things kind of are similar but not the same. I'd say this is similar but not the same to Bat.
Really? Oh, just
Yeah.
in kind of the gothic nature of the perfume.
Yeah, like they're, again, they don't necessarily smell the same.
Or similar.
But they're kind of in the same arena, I guess, you know, of what it's like. And the fact that it's, yeah, like this is dusty where Bat is
Damn.
wet. Yeah, wet. But it's like got that still that earthy note in there that's
And it's also kind of related to bee because there's like there's a nice honey note that's crafted
there we go,
in here
yep.
that does kind of the same thing there, but
yeah.
one of those iterations that does a really good job of showing what the conceptual apparatus of Zoologist does for these perfumes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next
up.
Us do it.
This is one of the new variations of Macaque. There is a second variation of the new Macaque. So there's the old Macaque, which would just be called Macaque, and now there is Macaque Fuji Apple and Macaque Yuzu Edition. And this, obviously, you can tell by the bottle there, is the Yuzu Edition. This guy is one of the coolest sandalwood fragrances I've ever smelt. It has a really bright, very strong citrus note up top, yuzu, of course. And then it's got like olibanum and incense in the middle, and it kind of dries down to this really nice sauna feeling. But it's interesting because the sandalwood note, you kind of get this sour note from sandalwood a lot of times. And especially the aged variety of sandalwood, you've got the creaminess to it, but there's this like very slight sour woody note or woody feeling that goes underneath the texture of the sandalwood, and that gets accentuated very nicely here by the yuzu. Mm-hmm. It's a really cool perfume.
So when we first got together and we first got into perfume, we were talking about my favorite smells, and it was campfire, coffee, and the zoo. And this is like a non-offensive zoo smelling smell.
You think?
Oh yeah, like this automatically brings me to the primate house, like back home. Of, like I don't know. Maybe it is like a true placebo effect of like, oh, I think of monkey, and monkey like nostalgically brings me back to the primate house back home. But I don't know. I smell a little bit of like monkey-esque in it. I don't know.
Monkey funk.
Monkey funk. But it's good. I mean, it's not like a stinky smell. It's the citrus is really nice, and there's just something there that just, there's always something there to remind me. Okay, on that note, I'm just gonna segue out of that and move to the next one.
And this is a really nice point to stop here just briefly and say, a lot of people talk about Zoologists and they'll say, oh, it feels kind of gimmicky. And I think you can say that about any conceptual art at all. because there are a lot of people who imagine that art is this purely abstract thing. They're the type of people who buy into the anonym perfume approach, which is not to say those aren't great perfumes, but they say that, oh, well, now the perfume is anonymous, we're just going to let you judge the smell, except for there's the idea of anonymity, there's the bottle design, there's the images, there's the notes. The only way that you can get away with something just purely being about the scent is running up on someone and throwing like a glass of whatever on them and then running away. And even that carries the notion of you running up and throwing it on them. That's the closest, though, that you can get. Because then it really is just the scent that's on you. But then you have this nightmarish experience that just happens. So it's like, it's really irritating when a lot of people say something like, oh, well, it's gimmicky. I can understand that maybe for like a brand that lies about something, you know, that says like, oh, this is an eccentric molecule number one, it's just accentuating your pheromones. That I can get, that's gimmicky, that's annoying. But, you know, something like Zoologist, I think, really is trying to approach perfume from a way that does engage every part of the idea of perfumery. And, you know, working through the material that the artist behind the brand is presenting you with is always going to be a part of the perfume here. I think Victor is just very, very clever about how he's going about it in unifying it through one notion. And so I just want to get that out of the way because
we did it.
We did it.
We did it.
Okay, this is one of the old school guys. This is one that has a new variation. This is Dodo. There is a new variation by Printemps Rose. Shoot, no, it's not by Printemps Rose. Oh my gosh. It's Yves César. Excuse me. The new one is by Yves César. The new bat is by Printemps Rose. I'm so sorry. But this is the old school version of Dodo. It's like lychee and fern, and it's very strange.
You get the lychee.
Yeah.
You get it up front and personal. Hey, do you think it will take me on an island if I give it a plane ticket? Will it take me somewhere?
No, it won't.
Darn it.
It's rude.
Aw, man.
Which is a coincidence because Victor also plays Animal Crossing. Anyways, cut. This one's super interesting to me. I really love this perfume. Apparently a lot of people didn't, so that's why it got reformulated, and I don't think it matched what Victor was wanting the perfume to do. It kind of does smell like a birdhouse at the zoo. Kind of smells a little bit like a chicken coop, just very slightly. But I would call this a bird musk perfume. Like, it smells like animal musk mixed with like a fougere. It's like a birdie fougere.
Okay.
Do you like this guy?
Oh yeah.
This is like one of the three in the collection that I have that I think is very, very extreme in approaching the environment in a way that's so fun and unique and very cool.
Okay, so what are the three then?
So we've got Bat, we've got Dodo, and the next one coming up you'll see.
Woo!
But anyway, that's Dodo. That's the original Dodo. The next one, the last one to that collection, is Beaver.
Yeah.
This is not the original Beaver. This is the reformulated version of Beaver. I've tried. We have smelled every single Zoologist release, and Victor has kind of, I think, talked about maybe taking some of the older scents and representing them like in a limited edition capacity when he reaches certain milestones. If he did that for the original Beaver ever, I would probably buy it. They smell different enough. The original one has like a lot of ash in it. It's very, I don't know, it smells more like it could be an amouage fragrance. This one, to me, when you're talking about the zoo, this smells like the zoo to me.
You think?
Yeah, this is an aquatic musk. So it's an aquatic fragrance to some degree because you do get that water note in there. But it is very musky. I wouldn't say it's necessarily castoreum-like.
Yeah.
Because that's like a lot sweeter, a lot smokier. It's kind of sometimes got some fruity notes to it that are really pleasant. Which isn't to say this isn't pleasant. This is amazing. But this is a water musk to me, and that's what I think is another thing that was so amazing about this house is capabilities of doing something like this. And this is an independent perfumer doing this guy. just nailed it. Just, you know, knocked my socks off.
Yeah. Ta-da! Last one.
The last full bottle that we have to discuss is Chipmunk. Look at that guy.
Look at that little chipmunk.
And once again, a perfume that's very different from anything that we've talked about in the house so far.
This one is nothing like any of the... Nope. But you get... I don't know what to describe it as, but it's...
It's very spicy and nutty and woody.
Yeah.
The nutty part is like the first nutty perfume that I've really like fell in head over heels with. Sometimes in the dry down on this guy, I would like, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it was tonka bean heavy or that there was like a chocolatey, cinnamony thing going on. There's a cardamom note in here that's really can be kind of tricky because it's mixed with like hazelnut and oak and other things that are kind of blurring it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But this is another one of those perfumes. This is more edging into gourmand territory.
Yeah.
I'd say it's even more gourmand than B. B doesn't really read gourmandy to me.
I don't think so either.
Civet kind of does.
Yeah.
But it's more resinous. This is more straightforwardly gourmand.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the first gourmand perfume-ish that I've really fallen in love with, too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Chipmunk. That's another phenomenal guy.
So those are all the bottles that we own.
All the full bottles.
All the full bottles. So yeah, let us know if there's something you want us to talk about in further detail. And